And as I go to drink it, Dunmore decides it's a good idea to push my head into the bottle, snaps my entire front tooth off, it broke off, and I've got big front teeth. And I just remember this tooth in my mouth. Everyone kind of goes silent. I look up to Dunmore and went, oh my God, you've just knocked my tooth out. Everyone starts cheering at that for some reason. And then Dunmore weirdly just goes, drink it then. I was like, what? Welcome, Ricka.
A good eye there, Joshua.
Mate, how you feeling?
Good, yeah.
Do you know what?
Sore, not gonna lie.
Why have we started this episode with just the most like somber tone? That's just the furthest thing from our relationship, possibly. How are they?
It's also a little bit of the unknown, isn't it? It's like, where are you going to go with this?
Well, that's my biggest fear with you, is that you're unfiltered. And so this conversation could go 1,000 different ways, which for me is the biggest concern. And I don't actually really know what the demographic is that necessarily listens to this. So I would say at least 60% of the audience could be offended by the end of it.
Film for an hour, probably get about 13 minutes worth of content. This week is a short episode, guys. You can listen to the bleep, though.
Just the intro. For those of you who are listening, though, I do apologise. For some reason, I've inherited a cough. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just being super run down. I had a cigar like 4 months ago. I was trying to be proper hard. I just haven't recovered from it.
You got geezers running the length of Africa. You had a cigar 4 months ago.
My friend's wife's father is a Colombian, and he just whacked out at this party these 2 bags of like fresh Cuban cigars. And I was just like, this is my moment. Smoked it with him, had the best time, and then just the next day was like, wow, that's not great. Don't know what he's laced it with.
Did we will pre-Mara?
Yeah, mate, I'll be honest, this has just been such a mad year of injuries and illnesses. Like, my body, I think, is finally, after a number of years, has just gone, do you know what? Nah. I'm not doing this anymore.
Not surprising, is it, to be honest?
I think it's just a bit of a wake-up call. How are you feeling, though? Man, you've just run the London Marathon.
First marathon, ticked it up. Well, I say first. Technically, my first was with you.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? When we did Portsmouth.
Mm.
That was such a good surprise when you were there. And that was just the best city for us to have done that together. Just the coast.
Yeah, that was unreal. I can't work out if I feel worse after this or yours. I think I ache more after this than that one. Even though the furthest I'd ever run for yours was 10K before that. But this, it's a whole world of pain.
Were you even intending on running the full marathon in Portsmouth? Was that just to come for like 10K or a half?
I was going to try a half. But then there was another guy there, I think you were running with a guy called Jack, and he was like, oh no, my mate came and did it the other day, and he'd never run further than 10K. You can do it, you pussy. I was like, dagger in the heart. I was like, oh, gotta do it now.
With your mindset as well, that would have driven you so much. That's hilarious.
That wasn't too bad. The last 10K, that was bad.
Yeah.
You guys were trotting off, and I was just on my own in just this cave of death.
I think the differences between that one, though, is obviously we were in our own space. No one was watching. And so, like, if you want to walk or if you were struggling, you could do that in peace. The atmosphere at London Marathon is electric. Like, from start to finish, there was literally not a single location without a crowd cheering. And obviously, for someone like yourself, at no point can you ever stop, really. Well, you could, but like, you just wouldn't.
Twice it went through my head, you should probably stop now. Obviously, I didn't think, it went through my head, you should stop. I was like, I can't do that. Physically can't. Demoralising watching people overtake you, though.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to remember, like, what's the background of the individual? How long have they been running for? How many marathons have they done? For some of them who have done London Marathon, like, you now know what that course entails. I think sometimes the unknown of like, okay, well, I know I'm at 17 miles, but I don't really know where it is that I'm at. Or like, does it have a gradient? Is there a hill that I'm about to
I didn't have a clue. I didn't know, I would say 98% of that course. Until we got to the embankment, that's the only bit I knew. So yeah, as you said, I'm running along and you can't picture where you've got to go. So you don't know, oh, I've got to finish there, so I can put a bit more in here. I had no idea. Even when I got to the embankment, I thought we went left over the river, not right, which is stupid, really. I know Buckingham Palace is there. For some reason in my head, I thought we went left. So tough. But we did it. What
was it for you that drove you to want to do London Marathon as opposed to any other one? Was it just the fact that it was on home soil?
I guess, yeah. I think I've always wanted to do a marathon. I've always said at some point I'm going to do one. I used to run, as a kid, I ran quite a lot. Not to any sort of high level or any sort of big distances, but so it was always in the back of my mind that I did want to do a marathon. Timing wise, I don't know. I think when we were younger, we went out quite a lot, just didn't really fit. It wasn't really in my mindset. And then I played football at weekends for a number of years, so marathon training didn't really work. And then I decided to sack that off last year to do a marathon, because I thought if I leave it any longer, I'm going to get to the age where I'm not going to get anywhere near a good time anyway.
You say that though, look at these 40-year-olds.
Yeah, but they've been doing it for what, 15 years probably. I don't know how many 40-year-olds start at 40 and then bang in good times.
I mean, you could be the first.
I could. Well, I can't because I've already done one. I know I look old and grey, mate, but I'm not 40.
What a transition, though.
That did blow my mind, though. One thing in the marathon, the amount of people that, not anything against old people, but like old people, people of all shapes and sizes that were like caning it like, past me. And I was like, how are they doing that? Blew my mind.
Again, I think just
got beat by a bloke in a tap outfit, dressed as a tap. At one, for I'd say a solid 30k, there was a guy dressed as a mountain. And he was in front of me, and then I thought, I've dusted him off. And then about 10k later, he was in front of me. I was like, oh no, the geezer dressed as a mountain is beating me.
I don't get some of the inspirations behind these costumes. Like, there was a guy dressed as a spring onion. Like, I'd love to know what the catalyst was for him to be inspired by that. Like the rhino costume, I get. Some of them, though, it is unbelievable how far a person is willing to test themselves in order to raise money or awareness for like their chosen charity, you know, or cause. Like it is phenomenal. Like there was one guy I saw hitting a hockey ball the entire way. Hockey stick, hockey ball, and just hitting it on the ground.
On the floor?
No, just on the floor. How tedious would that be?
I bet he's got a backache.
And then I saw a phenomenal guy. I don't know what his situation was, but it was inspired by his personal events. And he was playing the trumpet, I think it was, or something like that. Trombone.
The green one.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw a video of that.
Unbelievable. Like, mad. You're out of breath as it is, let alone having to utilise the whole time. Basically, we had him. And then there was a couple where I was just like, I don't know if I could be with this guy for 26.2. He had, like those bells on a cow.
Yeah.
That. Just ringing repetitively. And we got stuck with him for about 10 minutes. And at one point, I was just going to grab the bell and lob it. I was like, I'm not having that, mate. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, at the start as well, there was a guy running. He started in my wave. He was running with a bike on his shoulder.
What?
Yeah. So I ran over to him. I was like, have you trained with that? He went, no, I've never done it before.
Just wanted to run with the bike on shoulder.
So he had a little pad, just looked like a rugby kind of shoulder pad, and then just his bike on his shoulder.
Wow.
That's crackers, isn't it?
The fridges, the guys, I saw people running with the fridge on their back. One of them proposed to his partner with the fridge on his back. Have you enjoyed the whole process though?
I've absolutely loved it. I'm not going to lie. As I said, I was playing football before, not to any sort of great standard, but I think the thing with that is I'd go for a run midweek and that was all I really did. I've loved having something to train for. As you know, I've always wanted the gym, but that's just so different. I'm so bored of going to the gym and lifting weights. I loved having a plan, and the plan you can physically see your time's getting better, your distance is getting longer. So you actually see growth in yourself. It's kind of like unlocking a superpower that I never knew I had. So absolutely loved it. We'll definitely carry on running when I can run again and want to knock more time off the marathon.
What do you think was like the standout thing for you? I mean, you were running yours at pace, to be fair. Like I think you ran, was it 3:19 you ran or 3:50?
3:17.
3:17, which is absolutely rapid. But for anyone like taking on their first marathon or their first like organised like running event this year, what were like the standout points for you?
For us, the atmosphere is insane. I know everybody says it, but absolutely crackers. I thought at the start, I didn't think there'd be people for probably the first 10 miles or so. From the start to the finish is lined with people, which is insane. I think 500,000 people, do they say, watch? That's mad. Also just running amongst other people. I don't really train or didn't really train with people that often. So I did a lot of my running on my own. So just running with other people, being able to sit behind someone or next to someone and just run in a bit of a pack, so much nicer. So yeah, I said I did it in a 3:17. So we would have been probably towards the front of the people going past spectators. If those people were there all day doing that, it blows my mind. How people can go out of their day just to cheer other people on. And it helps you so much. If you put your name on your chest, everyone shouts your name, is insane. Like, I was questioning how people can stand there and do that all day. But the difference it makes, without those people, that marathon would be shite. You wouldn't come and do it. The people make the marathon as much as anything.
With the world being as crazy as it is right now, it's one of those things where it just restores my faith in humanity. Like, just the togetherness. It's so interesting how ordinarily, like in the streets or on a night out or just in general, we have such social anxiety or like the ability to interact with people, I guess, out of fear of rejection. But when it comes to running a marathon, when you strip all that back and you are vulnerable, it's so good how many people that you don't know will come up to you being like, you're so inspiring or amazing or keep going. I met a woman yesterday who said she got there at 7:30 a.m. and she didn't leave until I think it was 8 p.m. that night.
Wow.
She was there to support her run club, and that we're talking from the fastest all the way to the slowest.
Insane.
You just think the commitment that people have to others is just phenomenal.
How did you find it? Because obviously you were running at probably a slower pace than you normally would, which is fair enough. In my mind, I find that probably tougher.
No, do you know what? It's really interesting. So it's definitely tough in the sense that you're not running the pace that you ordinarily would. So your hamstrings become quite tight. Like it's a different type.
Well, you run kind of heeled, almost flat-footed.
Well, it's almost unnatural because you are going much slower than you ordinarily would. But when you're supporting somebody else, there is something really powerful about that where everything that you feel and are going through, you sort of subside because that person becomes the priority. For me, Millie was going through so much mentally and physically. And every single thing that Liam, her boyfriend, and I did would have a positive or a negative impact on her. She really did feed off us. So you have got to remain solid, positive, and consistent with what it is that you're doing. Even things like when we were running with her, we had to drop back so that we weren't sort of like within her eye line, because she felt pressure when we were next to her. We wanted her to go at a pace that she felt the most comfortable with. And at times where if she maybe did pick up the pace, because she was getting cheered on so much, we just have to rein her in slightly. And it was a very unique and a very, very special experience to be a part of. And I felt so privileged to have shared that first marathon with her because, you know, like yourself and so many people, she went into that with, you know, a lot of physical issues going on, and you know, she was in the wheelchair for a brief period of time, and the furthest she was able to run was a half marathon. And, you know, she finished the entire thing, and it was phenomenal. I mean, even at the end, when we were like 35K and we were speaking about this, what really inspired me about her is that she had an opportunity there to bow out if she wanted to. You know, the medics were looking at her being like, listen, you know, if you want to stop here, we completely understand. There's a lot of blood going on. We need to redress this. And the fact that she just shifted straight from the blade to her prosthetic leg, and we ended up walking the remaining 8K, I think was even more inspiring. And just the crowd either side, we were absorbing every bit of energy. And just the feeling of elation, like when we crossed that finish line together, we were laughing about it though, because I mean, ultimately I'm there with, you know, a couple, and I was completely third wheeling, and they were having very intimate moments, sort of kissing and cuddling and holding hands. And I just sort of was like having to distract my eye line to trees and anything else, to be honest with you, to make it not a weird situation.
Yeah, that's mad that she did. Well, and the fact that she'd only ever run a half as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Power of the mind, man. Power of the mind. 100%. But then you got to take into account, like, what has she been through, you know, in the past to get to that point? And I think her knowing what she's overcome, you know, has prepared her for that very moment and many more moments that will come like that, not necessarily just a marathon. And it was, like I said, it was really special to be able to witness that. You know, I can only sort of mentor and guide her so much of the way, and the rest really has to come from her. And she 100% took responsibility and absolutely smashed it. And the knock-on effect that's going to have now on so many lives around her is going to be monumental. And
yeah, 100%.
That's why we do it, bud. You know, and equally for somebody like yourself, like, you know, I followed obviously your journey, and you know, we've known each other for so long, and seeing the transition of somebody like yourself of where we were at as young kids, to be honest with you, to where we're at right now, like never in a million years would I ever picture you running a marathon. Here we are.
And never would I have pictures me running a marathon, you running 76, and us sat in a studio talking about it.
Isn't that mad?
It is wild, isn't it?
It is mental.
Wild.
So like, to give context, guys, so when I first moved to London, I moved to London essentially to be on a TV show. And Dunmore...
Chasing the fame, weren't you, mate?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know how well we did at that. I was known for speaking Elvish. I think that was probably the highlight of my time on that.
I was known for not saying anything, so probably better.
So this is what was amazing. So basically, Elliot, another friend of ours, also was on the show. And I mean, ultimately, I think his claim to fame, not even a claim to fame, but what he was most known for was sending another cast member a dick pic, wasn't
He
it?
was just known as Dick Pic Guy. So let's face it, Elvish, not speaking, Dick Pic Guy.
What a trio.
We probably won out of those three there.
What a trio. And I mean, we lived together. So there was the three of us and then two others. It was 5 in total. The most interesting thing about the dynamic in our house was that there was only 4 bedrooms, but 5 of us lived in it. So the 5th person rented the sofa.
Yeah.
He was an actor.
He was an
/
actor.
MMA or aspiring MMA fighter.
I think he just liked it and watched it. And we had Bob, his mannequin in the garden that used to beat up. Do you remember?
Literally, you'd come home and he'd either be sparring with a mannequin in the garden or asleep on the sofa.
Mouldy scrambled eggs next to his head.
And because we were so young, just moved to London, essentially, if anyone decided to have a party, he would then have to party. Like, that was the funniest thing.
He'd have work at 6 a.m. in King's Cross to open up the gym, and Elliot would decide to have an after party, wouldn't he? Bringing people back at 3 a.m.
Oh, I think I remember once taking a date back after dinner, and we sat on the sofa and I completely forgot that he slept there. And this girl, her reaction was like, what's going on? I think at one point I just tried to play it cool. I was like, oh no, it's cool, don't worry. He kind of, that's his bedroom. Like,
I think it also didn't help that we'd basically all lost our keys, so we used to have to climb through the front window.
that is mad.
In Fulham, we had the window open all year round, basically, didn't we? You could just slide. We could have got robbed. So, well, to be fair, they probably looked in there and probably thought, fuck that.
Yeah, that house was an absolute state, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, we had an MMA guy living on the sofa, so if you broke in, it was at your own peril.
The dynamic in
It was
that
feral,
house.
that house, though, in hindsight, wasn't it? Absolutely feral.
Well, I mean, I remember packing all my stuff up and coming to London to move in because one of the housemates had decided that they were moving out and arrived, and not one of you decided to tell me that this person was actually leaving. They just decided that actually they kind of weren't. And so I ended up having to sleep in a bed with Elliot for an entire month. Got to the point where I was like, mate, get out. This is ridiculous. Like, this isn't a thing. This isn't my room now for the rest of time. God, that was absolute madness.
I like to say we've come a long way since then.
Well, the craziest thing about that is, though, I remember like moving my entire life to London at that point, thinking, I'm on this show, I'm going to commit everything I've got to it. And it's only kind of like when I've been reflecting about it now, where I've seen how cutthroat the industry actually is and how quickly people act from it, that moving to London and like committing my life to something, that could have literally lasted like a month.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Ballsy decision.
That's what's mental about that whole experience. Like it was, I think for you and I, we were so young when you actually think about it. And it was such a turbulent...
You say that, but a lot of people started at like 18. We were
26?
4, 5?
I was 20, well, I think I was 26, which, you know, for me is young when you're going into that space. And it was such a turbulent and incredible time. What
the hell were you doing? You moved from Norfolk, from the sticks, to move to London to be on a TV show. Now that is quite the transition.
I went from being a labourer on my dad's site to that.
To chirpsing gals on TV.
Such a surreal existence.
Yeah,
it was crazy though. Like, did you find it hard to process it? What you were, or kind of what we were doing at that time, or was it just kind of like going with the flow?
I don't think I really did process it, if I'm honest. I kind of went for the audition. I say audition, it's not an audition, the interview. And they were like, yeah, okay, you start on Monday. I was like, okay. And then I think our first scene we were playing rugby, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Never played rugby in my life. Obviously, I had to make it look like I was good at that, which is mad. So yeah, then you just stand there in front of cameras and try and talk, which I couldn't do. Just stood there and nodded.
What people don't understand about you, which I think was one of the highlights of that entire experience, is that you are one of the wittiest and funniest guys I know. But whoever the producers were, basically just in like black marker pen, just wrote down like,
no,
crucify this guy's personality. I remember there were scenes.
To be fair, you got crucified way more.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the short end of the straw on that.
I got crucified personality. Make him look as dull as anything. You got crucified as basically just try and make you look like a bully, adulterer. I don't know.
The first person in history to be cheated on and it was my fault. That was a really unique storyline.
You basically had a mental breakdown, mate.
Dude, I mean,
we laugh about it, but that nearly ended you.
It was crazy. It was so crazy. Well, I mean,
you went through some real dark times because of that show.
Well, we did
after it.
Well, yeah, because I think the mad thing about that whole experience is the fact that your life is literally dictated to by complete strangers, and they have complete power. And like, you know, we laugh about it now, but I remember you would do scenes and would be the funniest person in the room. We'd watch it on television, and it was like. He said 3 words.
One word from me. Yeah.
Have they manipulated this scene? It was mad, and I think that's
Imagine
when
watching it yourself, mate.
What?
I used to sit there and I was like, "Oh, you'd finish the scene." I'd be like, "That was quite jokes, that." Yeah, kind of be good to watch that back, and you'd see it, and you're like, "You've made me a mute. You've literally made me a mute." And I think it was even worse after I started to get with Lucy. They just wanted me to be her little bitch. All they wanted was to be her, like Lucy's boyfriend that says nothing. I think that was the narrative, and it was like, okay, well, I'll just go with that now. And in the end, it was like, well, I just can't even be arsed. I'll just sit there and say nothing.
I just remember so many people telling me, like, Dunmore doesn't really say much. I'm like, you have no idea. Come
Quite
to our
shy,
house.
that guy, isn't he?
Come to our house for an after party. You'll experience the true Dunmore. That's him at his finest. That was it was a mad, mad time.
10 years ago?
Not quite. I think it was...
It is, because I've been with Lucy for 9 years.
No.
Yeah.
You joking?
It boxed that one off the other day, didn't we?
Was I there for your first date? No, Elliot was.
First date.
That was it. Do you remember?
The first time we met, I had a...
Your scene was with Elliot, and it was an absolute car crash, wasn't it?
Well, I just didn't say anything, and Elliot decided to go ham. Oh no, I said actually, I get rinsed about this all the time. I said, "What would you do on a day-to-day basis?" That's what I
That's
said.
such a weird question.
Yes, because what they didn't show is that I'd been stood there talking to her for about 15, 20 minutes, but they cut the first bit. So when we watched it, it was, "Hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm James. I'm Lucy. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?" I mean, that wasn't the first thing I said to her, was it?
I still think even with like a bit of build-up, that's still an interesting question to ask someone.
I want to know the ins and outs of everything you do on a day-to-day basis. Tell
on
me
camera,
now.
share it.
Tell me.
God.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be the most terrifying experience. There's a little mark on the floor, so you know any minute now I've got to chirp a girl on TV. It's obviously in a nightclub or a bar, so everyone thinks you're drunk, stone cold sober.
Who, by the way, is so unforgiving as well.
Oh, exactly. Who's known notoriously as the bitch of the show. I was like, oh God, this is just. Shall I just pull the pin out now and just swallow the grenade? So yeah, but I mean, let's face it, married and a child, so something went right.
Dude, you're a dad now.
I know. Really dipped my toe in your world, haven't I? I now run and I've got a kid. I just want to be you.
I mean, it still hasn't really sunk in that you have a child now. I haven't met your child yet.
I know.
This is the first time that we've actually hung out probably in years. Actually, that's a lie. The last time we properly hung out was your wedding, which didn't end particularly well.
Why didn't it?
I lost my tooth. Because of you.
You swallowed it, didn't you?
Yes, it did. I completely forgot.
At least I set you up with a dentist, though, who could fix your tooth.
Who is the nicest but also the most mental person on earth.
Yeah, but look at that. I chipped your tooth
Literally.
and I got it sorted within half an hour.
The last I saw of him was him with a belt wrapped around his neck being dragged round the edge of a pool. Like he definitely works hard and parties so much bloody harder. He's one of the most unique individuals I've ever met. So basically Dunmore, his wedding with Lucy was absolutely incredible. We went to Greece. And they decided to do sort of like a boat party the day before the wedding. And I don't know what happened, but it went from like, we're talking like grandparents, parents, friends, family on this boat. It's really civil. Everyone's somewhat like smart, casually dressed up. Out of nowhere, it just went. It turned into a film where it was like it was absolute carnage. It
People
turned into this
long-arming
rave.
bottles of rosé.
Grandparents and parents standing on tables, knocking bottles. So it basically went round this whole boat where we were doing it. And then it was my turn. And like briefly for a second, I pretended like I wasn't going to drink my beer, which obviously I was. And as I go to drink it, Dunmore decides it's a good idea to push my head into the bottle, snaps my entire front tooth off. Well, it broke off and I've got big front teeth. And I just remember this tooth in my mouth. Everyone kind of goes silent. I look up to Dunmore and went, oh my God, you've just knocked my tooth out. Everyone starts cheering at that for some reason. And then Dunmore weirdly just goes, drink it then. I was like, what?
Swallow it, you pussy.
Drink it. Next thing I know, I've drunk my tooth. We carry on as usual, absolutely go into the night. I've woken up the next day and I'm sharing a room with Sam Thompson. And I remember going to the toilet, having a pee, turning around to wash my hands and looked in the mirror, and my tooth is gone. I then freaked out.
You were so excited to get like your suit on the wedding day, look quite suave, but then you just had this hillbilly farmer tooth. All right there, Joshua.
I remember turning to Sam being like, Sam, where's my tooth? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, my tooth's gone. Where is it? He was like, you swallowed it. So what do you mean I swallowed my tooth? He's like, Dunmore knocked it out accidentally on the boat yesterday and you decided to swallow it, and everyone started cheering. I was just like, what do I do? At one point, I was genuinely like, do I try and sieve this out the next time? I don't know. Mate, for vanity reasons, I was like, we've got a wedding coming up and I've got no teeth.
It was such a good break as well. It was a proper diagonal, wasn't it? Like corner to corner.
And the worst thing is when people were trying to like boost my ego, being like, doesn't look that bad. Doesn't look that bad. I was just like, the worst thing is because they are big, it made this one bigger. I look like Nanny McPhee.
Also, the worst thing with a chipped tooth is when you feel it with your tongue. It feels like you're licking like a desert, doesn't it?
I just was pranging so hard the fact that essentially your best friend, who was the dentist, offered his services after witnessing what his behaviour was like across that wedding. I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. Turns out though,
premium dentist,
phenomenal dentist.
He was unbelievable.
Did an exceptional job, although my gap's kind of gone, which is sad. People comment on that quite regularly.
Has it?
Yeah.
Still look a bit gappy to me.
Well, it is what it is.
This week's episode is sponsored by Runner. Runner is a personalized running coaching app helping runners of all abilities train for any goal. From a first 5K to a marathon, even an ultra marathon. When the time is right for you, your plan can be created within a minute and ready to go. With each plan, Runner provides all the help a runner requires, including strength and conditioning, and you can also reach out to the team at any time via the support tab inside the app. For a 2-week free trial on any personalized running plan, use the code PHOENIX. No matter your goal, Runner is there to help you achieve it.
What I love about these types of episodes as well is that it's not predominantly focused on running. I just think being able to relate and connect with just anyone and everyone that, test themselves in some capacity with a run, I think is what is making these episodes so enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When you asked me to do it, I did think I'm a little out of my depth. Bearing in mind you've had Olympians, ultra runners, and then you want me who's just done my first marathon.
James Dunmore. Yeah, but that loads of people will connect with that.
I guess, yeah. Let's face it, there's more people that run that aren't doing ultras and banging out 2:45 marathons, you know what I mean? There's more people that are casual runners or want to do a marathon probably in my position than the other.
Would you say it was the marathon was harder, or would you say the runs that you did training-wise leading up to that were harder?
Marathon.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
See, I always say to people, any run you do leading up to that marathon will be harder than the marathon itself. And the reason why I say that is that you're running alone for the vast majority of time. Based on where we live, the weather tends to be pretty crappy. You don't have the stimulation of support around you. So actually, when you're at that marathon, yes, I know obviously you are going to be testing your threshold, but you've got tens of thousands of people cheering you on and you are running amongst a lot of people. You may not know them, but like I said, you feed off that energy. So for me, I feel like it's a better experience.
It's definitely a better experience, but I think in your training, you obviously, because you build up slowly, you've done quite a few halves and then you push a bit further. So the first you go, as I said, 30 or circa 30K, you've done probably half marathon 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So, and you're building, but as a marathon, you never go past 34K. So that is all unknown. And I ended up running the marathon way quicker than anything I trained. My heart rate was way higher than anything I trained. The pace was way faster than anything I trained. So it was completely into the unknown. Once I got past Tower Bridge, for some reason, I don't know, I didn't even mean to. I was just going rapid. I felt unbelievable. Caught up with the 3 hour 15 pace group. And I was like, I'm just going to tuck in here, which I thought would be nice. Sit in here. This will carry me all the way to the end. That didn't happen. Bonked savagely hard. And you could just see this guy, 3:15, a pace which I was cruising at so comfortably. How fast that went away from me was mad. So I was impressed that I managed to stick, to be fair. I think I went to about 5 minutes per kilometre pace for the last 3K. But when you're losing 30 seconds every K, your time just goes rapid.
You know, you've had a lot of sleepless nights, and that is naturally going to have some level of impact in what it is that you were doing. But leading up to that point, you were on a good...
I was flying, absolutely flying. And then, so the last 6 weeks of my plan was the first 6 weeks of Willoughby being born. So the first 2 weeks he was born, I was supposed to be peaking. So probably clocking like 70K a week. And I remember, so I'd go for my 34K run I did off 4 hours sleep, which was just savage. Absolutely savage. The first 2 weeks, it actually wasn't too bad because I think my body was still running, 1 off adrenaline, 2 off of stores that I had before. It was after that just the recovery. Like I always knew, they always say that sleep's so important, but my God, I'd go to sleep. Never look at your watch if you have a baby either. It's just like depressing. You see your sleep and it's like you've had 2.5 hours sleep, and I'd wake up and my legs felt worse than the day before. And then you go for another run and another run. And then after a couple of weeks, just injuries started to come everywhere. Knee, I got savage shin splints because I had 2 weeks where I had low miles. I then thought, right, I need to ramp this up. So I did 2 massive weeks back to back and it just shot my legs. So yeah, that was tough. And then 3 weeks out, that's when I started to get real bad injuries. And then I just stopped running. I needed to be healthy and fit on race day. And I just sacked off all the runs for the last 2 weeks. So, because I stopped all my gym work as well, leg weights, stopped all of that. As you can imagine, there was only a few hours a day I could really say to Lucy, I'm going to leave you with the baby and go and run. So all I could do was to go and do my runs. Didn't do any strength and conditioning. Didn't really do much rehab. Sacked off my ice baths. So, so it was going to give, let's face it. But the fact that I even got there to the start line at all, I'm pretty proud of, to be honest.
Which area do you want to do the next marathon?
I don't know. I haven't really thought of it, to be honest. Quite open. I'd quite like to do Europe. Maybe not for the next one. I intend to do, well, I don't know. Don't let Lucy know this, but I tend to do quite a few. She's not massively into the running. Or me running.
She doesn't really like exercise, though, does she? Or does she? She did it before.
She does. Well, I wouldn't say she likes it.
Do you know what? She's going to hear that and be like,
yeah. She doesn't like it. She does it for means of being in shape and positive mind. I wouldn't say she's one of these people that loves it and thrives off of it.
Yeah.
So
that'd be so epic seeing her do like a 5K. Do you reckon you could influence her to do that?
No, she actually did say the other day she's run a 5K once. She did one for charity years ago. I got her to run twice with me. Coming from off the sofa, never doing anything, and I think she did 3K, which is fair enough.
Yeah,
but she hasn't got the best running tech, I'm not gonna lie.
How's she taken to being a mum?
She's unbelievable, to be honest. Like, it's bad for the guy, let's face it, but it's a whole different world for the woman. And she's also breastfeeding, so that's just such a drain on your body, so stressful. And they also have the motherly instinct of like, I have to look after and protect this thing at all costs. Riddled through them, the hormone levels as well. But she's been unbelievable.
What's it been like for your relationship, like since the baby's come into it? And I don't mean like the obvious impact of like, you know, sometimes the strain that comes with it, but like the way that you feel about her and her with you with something like this in the picture.
Definitely made us closer, I would say, 100%. I think things such as having a baby or big life things like that, or say deaths in families, either make or break relationships. I think you either fight and go against each other, or you unite and become closer. We're definitely a team and we're definitely close. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely times in the middle of the night when you just want to mentally check out, or you do snap at each other. But we're both quite good at kind of not, if one of us does snap, or the other one won't bite, and then sort of half an hour later, we're both like, one of us, whoever's in the wrong is sorry about that, and just capture it, throw it away, and crack on, which I think is massive. I think if you're having a child, you need to be able to, you can't hold a grudge, or you need to be able to take whatever's been thrown at you and just get on with it.
I mean, your Baba's a bit too young for it now, but like those running buggies are epic. So like when you're doing your training and you can put them in it, it's honestly.
Really? I look at people doing that and I think that would drive me insane.
No, I used to love it with India. It's she loved it as well. Like either she was just excited by the experience because, you know, she's being pushed around and it's fun for her, or it would just send her to sleep. She'd be Sparko. I could literally run a half marathon and she'd be asleep the entire thing. What was special though, Bud, was it, although obviously she has experienced me doing various different runs. It was never like an official marathon. So for her to be stood there that day and see me at London Marathon for the first time was so special. Like to just pick her up over the barrier and give her a big huddle. And apparently she just did not stop cheering. Which charity did you raise money for this year?
I ran for cystic fibrosis.
And that's a charity that's really personal to you.
Yes.
You've done a lot of work with them over the years.
Yeah, I did climbed Kilimanjaro with them. My family have also done loads of fundraising over the years. As you know, my sisters were both born with cystic fibrosis. They were both older than me and both sadly passed away. First one passed away in 2007. Second one passed away in 2009. So, wow, it's a long time ago now. Mad, actually, that it's gone that fast. It literally feels about 4 years ago. But so, yeah, it's very close to home to me, my family. So that is the main reason why I always do most of my sort of fundraising for that charity. The thing I find probably weirdest is I think of them now and I still think of them as older than me, even though when they passed away, Lucinda, my first sister, she passed away when she was 19. Second sister passed away when she was 22. I still think of them as older because obviously I was 16 and 18 at the time. So even though I'm so much older than them now, I still always picture them as older, even though they were just left school or whatever. I will always see them as my older sisters.
When Baba comes into the world as well, I guess there's an element where you think of them as the aunties up there kind of looking down on, looking over.
That's the thing. It's like there's so much for me to explain. Like I want to keep their memory living on, and I will obviously it's so sad that Willoughby won't be able to have his aunties in his life, but I want to share that memory and show him photos of them so that they are known to him. It's never been sort of like a taboo topic in my family. We've always spoken about my sisters. We've always spoken about if we're out for dinner and something reminds us of them, we'll always share and talk, which I think is such an important thing with grief and everything. I think there's so many circumstances where some people just can't deal with what's happened and it's becomes like a taboo topic. Don't mention their name. And I just think that's just, obviously everyone deals with things in different ways. And if that is your way of doing it, then fine. But I think for us, we just didn't find that healthy. And I think we want to try and remember them and share their love and the memories that we have of them as much as possible and keep them alive within us. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because we've never really spoken about it.
We haven't, no. It's actually quite odd. I think so many of my friends, we've never really got kind of into it or down. I don't know whether people think they can't ask me about it or I'm not, let's face it, I'm not the most openly emotional and deep person anyway. So I think people just kind of think...
Unless you're on a night out.
Oh yeah, I cry all night then.
Then it's the opposite. Can't get you away. Put me in a headlock.
That's not emotional, is it?
I remember when Jojo once said that, he was like, oh, I tell you what, like I love Dunmore. This is a friend of ours who's like, I don't know what it is though. Every time I see him, he just puts me in a headlock. I was like, Jojo, that's a sign of affection from Dunmore. That means he really likes you.
Come here, you.
But like just, we've never spoken about it. And I guess although you say it's not a taboo subject, I guess maybe it's just one of those things where for like myself and maybe so many people, like you don't know how sensitive something like that is. And so like, when is it appropriate to bring something like it up? I mean, you're right as well. Like you are and you aren't emotional sometimes. And I think the first time I've probably only ever seen you actually really emotional was at your wedding when you did your speech. And that was incredibly powerful when you brought them up and you had that moment where you kind of turned from everyone and that I started to tear up from that because you know, you feel the pain of your friends and your family and your loved ones around you and you see what it means to them. And, you know, I can't imagine what it is like to deal with grief on that level. I mean, to lose one sister's one thing, but to lose two so close apart. I mean, you've barely even had time to process your first sister, let alone the second. And I don't know, like how you've responded to it, I guess is why so many of your friends have so much admiration for you because that is life-changing.
Obviously, I became friends with you after all of that stuff had happened in my life. So I guess for people I met after that, it's not really in their mind to ask me about it because they didn't know me then. You know what I mean? Whereas if I grew up, my school friends who know me, they would openly talk about it more because I guess they were there at the time. They knew the vibe. Whereas if you weren't there and didn't know that, then I don't know. I think people just kind of don't really associate it with me so much because that's not what they know. So that's probably why people don't get into it as much. In terms of processing it, I'm not sure. I was thinking about this earlier. I don't know if I ever actually have really processed it. I don't know if you can. Obviously, you process it, and I'm well aware my sisters aren't here, and I know that they passed away and X, Y, and Z. But I don't really think you can ever process that because there's just so many. I guess just there's so many times in life and so many scenarios where they're not there. It's constant reminders. There's triggers kind of everywhere. And I guess this is the same with anyone. If you've got a disorder or illness, or if you've lost someone in a certain way, there's triggers. And I think that's the main thing that I kind of take away from it is it's so easy to look at other people and maybe mock or judge, but you don't know what that person is going through. I remember like there's times at university, like I had a nice watch at university, and this lad I know I was friends with, he used to always be like, "Oh, you spoiled little brat, you spoiled shit." And I never said to him, like, the reason I have that watch is because that was money that was left in my sister's bank accounts. And I bought that watch with that money. So, you know what I mean? He was there just being like, "Oh, you spoiled." He didn't know why I had that watch. And I think that kind of just made me realize day to day, everyone does it. We all do it. We all judge people sometimes without even thinking it. And you don't really know what is going on or what the triggers that people have are. And let's face it, what I had and have been through is bad. And so many people have also been through other stuff, parents with cancer or lost other family members. It's everywhere, but it's kind of this topic that doesn't really get spoken about that much. And I think people that haven't been through something like that, it doesn't even cross your mind until you do end up going through that. It's like a whole new world, if you know what I mean. So it's very hard to kind of, I don't know, it's quite hard to talk to people who haven't necessarily been through that sort of level of pain or that level of grief, because it's the sort of thing you don't know until you are there. And then I guess the only thing I do take from it is, say for a friend, you know Dougie, when Doug's brother passed away, I then felt I could say to him, like, if you ever need anything or you want to talk to me, please do talk to me. And he never did come to me and talk about it, but he said, I remember him saying to me a couple of years after, "You don't realize how much that meant to me that you offered that." And he said, the fact that I look at you and you're okay and how you are in life. And he said, "I know what you've been through." And he goes, "You are like an example to me that I can still be happy and move on." And that to me was enough. You know what I mean? If people can look at me and be like, he's been through a lot of bad shit and he is still happy, still motivates himself with things. If I can be an example in that sort of way, then to me, like, that is a tick. I've made a positive out of a shit situation. And that is enough for me to kind of be like, yeah, it's bad, but I can live with it. And if I can help other people going through something similar, then I'm okay with that.
I think it's like empathy as well, bud. Like look at that trait that you've inherited from something like that and what that's inspired you to go on and do. You know, there are so many people in this world that will be born into this world with cystic fibrosis who currently live with it. And, you know, processing something like that can be incredibly hard. And I guess that's where they would turn to somebody like yourself, you know, or Sophie, for instance, who's a hugely inspiring individual in this space. You know, was that something when obviously you guys found out, you and Luce, that you were going to be parents? Was that like getting Willoughby tested straight away to understand?
If both parents are a carrier of the faulty gene, you then have a 1 in 3 chance of having a child with cystic fibrosis. So they had my first sister, and then my mum was pregnant again with my second sister. And then that's when they found out my first sister had cystic fibrosis. So they found that out, and then mum was already pregnant. So then Lucinda was born, and then they found out she had it also. So my parents were pretty unlucky. It's 1 in 3 chance they had 2 kids straight off the bat with it. Because I am a carrier of the gene. So we first had to, my mum always thought I was a carrier because she got told when I was a kid. So first of all, when it came to the topic of let's have a child, I had to go and get tested to see if I was a carrier. I am a carrier. So then Lucy had to get tested, which was quite a scary time, to be honest, because if she was a carrier, then you're then in the same scenario, like, wow, like this could become very real all of a sudden. And then we could end up going down the process of having a child, having to have it tested, all that. But luckily, Lucy was not a carrier of the gene. So we were all good. But it was still quite scary times, just thinking, like, if she was a carrier, and then you're every time like you try and make a baby or whatever, you're like, what's going on here? Are we creating someone with this illness again, or are we in the scenario where if she was to get pregnant, she'd have to get tested? And then you open up the can of worms as, do you keep a baby if you're pregnant and knowing it might have cystic fibrosis or has got it? Do you decide to have an abortion because you don't want that? You know what I mean? It's just a whole can of worms that I was going around in our heads, that a scenario that's supposed to be so happy and harmonious of, we're having our first child, could have been a lot worse, a lot more difficult. But
things have definitely changed from what they were. Like, there are so many individuals now that live with cystic fibrosis who are going on to do the most phenomenal things. Sophie, who I mentioned, you know, she lives with cystic fibrosis, and as we speak is currently running, you know, her ambition is to run today's her third marathon of
36.
Is it 36?
Yeah, crazy.
Wow. I mean, that's unheard of.
As an illness, there's been massive strides in even the last 5 years. Crazy strides. I think when my sisters were, when we were sort of kids, I think the life expectancy was 27. Someone with cystic fibrosis. Obviously, a lot of people passed that away way younger. Some people got to their 60s, 70s. It's not an illness where you have a definite, like, you know exactly when shit could go bad. But reason for me doing things like the marathon and all those sort of things, raising money, is the nice thing that with cystic fibrosis at the minute is so many strides have been made in such a short amount of time. There's new drugs called a drug called Kaftrio, which people have taken. To start with, only very few people were on it, and all the tests when people were on these drugs, their lung function, their improvement, their life quality, everything went through the roof. So for the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, people have been campaigning to try and get these drugs more widely spread throughout the CF community. And we're at a point now where I can't remember what the exact stat, but most people with cystic fibrosis in the UK now can take this drug Kaftrio. And I think it just got passed recently that kids down to the age of 2 can now start to take it, that's like the earlier you can start taking this drug, the way better your life is going to be and your life expectancy will be. So potentially, I don't know, people who are taking Kaftrio from a very young age now, they could live a completely normal life while taking these drugs, and it just suppresses all the symptoms, and their life quality is so much better. So in relation to like a lot of other illnesses or things like cancer, which are very terminal, cystic fibrosis is in a better scenario. Obviously, there is still examples like my sisters, and there's probably still many children now who are sick in hospital right now who are going to pass away incredibly young, and it's so sad. So I don't know. I think all we can try and do is just try and keep raising money, raising funds, raise awareness, and hopefully at some point in the future there will be a cure and it won't be something we have to talk about.
Do you think that gives you the edge though, when you have all of that at the back of your mind when you're running these marathons? Like there's a far deeper meaning to it.
100%. Deeper meaning, and also like when I hit the pain cave fairly savage at I think 6K out, but I think that pain, yes, physical pain, and it's not any like a pain I really experience ever in life, still isn't like I could keep going. It didn't really affect me, because all I think is I can picture the scenarios of the shit that they went through in their life, or times where I saw them in hospital, like with wires everywhere and like so ill. I just think they had to go through that for decades. Well, not decades, but nearly 2 decades. If I can go through this pain of half an hour so easily. And let's face it, in half an hour after the race, I'll probably be fine, apart from very sore legs and waddling around a bit, but I'll be fine. They didn't get that opportunity. You know what I mean? They lived every day of their life. Probably hard for them as well, looking at their younger brother who could go out, run, play football, do everything he wanted. They couldn't do that. They had friends at school and they just wanted to be normal. It's all like they'd see their friends do everything, and all they ever said is, I just want to be normal, which is tough, horrible. So I just think if they can go through that and have all that pain and all that sort of emotion and of everyone around them being normal and them being ill and different, what is kind of a bit of pain, me running, doing something that I've chosen to do, that I enjoy doing, nothing really, is it? It doesn't really compare.
To kind of like wrap things up, for anyone that is going through something, you know, what you've just expressed there, you know, so many will be able to relate to something like that. And, you know, you were kind of discrediting yourself there, being like, this is just, you know, this is only my first marathon. But, you know, for a lot of people, they've not even got to that point yet. And it doesn't have to be the full marathon. But when you look at loss in life, but equally what you have gained from something like that, what it spurred you on to go on and do, what words could you give those individuals right now that are listening to this to give them that motivation?
It depends. If you're not into running, it doesn't have to be running or even anything physical. I think just find something that you can channel your energy into that will bring you peace and also just give you something to focus on. I think being able to focus your energy in a different direction than grief or stewing over thoughts in your head is so valuable. It just gives you a different direction. Find whatever it is. It doesn't have to be running. Even if you think you can't run, don't run. Do something. Do cooking. Do anything. But just find something that makes you feel kind of free or eases your mind. If you are wanting to run, then it doesn't matter if you've never run before. There is enough apps. There is enough programs out there to literally go from the sofa and start off with a 5K, and you'll be amazed how quickly, or even over a year or so, if you go from running nothing, you'll be able to do a marathon quite easily in a year, whoever you are. Doesn't matter about the time, doesn't matter about any of it. It's about the focus of training for something, knowing that the reason you're doing it is for those people or raising money for that thing, is amazing how it just spurs you on and gives you energy to wake up every day, keep doing it. And then when you do get to your task or your final goal, like the marathon, it's just like the ultimate goal and reward. And then I'm fairly sure most people that probably do something like that, from couch to a marathon, I can guarantee most of those people probably continue running or doing something else after that.
I love that. Couch to marathon. Typically it's couch to 5K, but Dunmore's just couch to 100 kilometre run, to be honest.
Yeah, why not? I did say the other day, actually, I was like, well, I might do a 50K after a marathon. And then I realised how sore I was.
I really would love to watch that. I've seen your facial expression. I've seen that so many times, but for different reasons. That broken face, just seeing that after a 50K, like I would pay a lot of money for that.
I mean, after a marathon, I'll show you some of the photos. I got them through the other day.
Oh, brother, honestly, it's been so good to have you on. And it's just really exciting to kind of see things unfold for you now, and whatever distance you set out for, like, I'm absolutely buzzing to see it happen. It's going to be mega.
I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface, to be honest. We could sit here all day, couldn't we?
Well, that's the thing with friendship, right? You just pick up from where you left off. You know, I don't see you nearly as much as I'd love to, but, you know, we've just got, you know, we're dads now and we've got so much going on, and now you're an elite level runner. Like, I'm probably going to see you even less.
Wouldn't go elite, but feel sorry for the listener. We've literally been waffling absolute garbage.
Oh, mate, I love you. Thank you so much, boy.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much for having me, and it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see where you go with this podcast. I'm very proud of everything you've done, and can't wait to cut some miles with you soon, mate.
That's a line I never, ever thought I'd hear you say. On that note,
ciao.
Bonsoir.
Yeah. If you enjoyed today's podcast, you fatted biscuit, all I ask of you in return is that you push that subscribe button and leave a review. Unless it's a bad one, you can keep that, you sausage. Your support, though, makes such a difference to this podcast and enables it to grow and connect with even more people around the world.